Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. Many of us struggle whenever we are single to figure out what the difference is between a red flag and a warning, and maybe just something that can be workable when it comes to potential differences in relationships. So there are some real key areas that are important to be aware of. And one of those are obviously respect and kindness. Does the person that you're dating treat you with respect and kindness? Do they actually value what you have to say? Do they honor your requests to set boundaries? Or are they continually pushing for what they need and what they want and kind of ignoring what is best for you or what you're asking for or requesting? So first and foremost, I think respect is key. And even if it's not a flat out red flag, that's a deal breaker completely, just because they're completely disrespectful, it can be enough of a deterrent that it's going to cause problems in the relationship as you go along. Particularly if they are maybe controlling, or they're overly critical, or they're making you feel like you are not enough, or that your concerns aren't valid, or your emotions aren't valid. That those can be red flags that are potentially dangerous in becoming a more toxic or damaging relationship. So respect is numero uno when it comes to evaluating whether or not someone's behaviors are red flags or just personality differences. So again, are they treating you kindly? Are they showing up for you whenever you are needing them? And again, this needs to be evaluated whether or not your request for their need or need for them is reasonable, right? If you want them 24 hours a day and you're just dating, that's probably something that needs looked at for you. But if you are every once in a while, whenever you reach out to them and you've been dating for a while, and you maybe need just an ear, or you need them to be supportive for you, or like I said, if you are requesting a boundary, like, hey, you know what, I'm really not ready to kiss yet, that I don't feel comfortable doing that until, we've been dating for a while, or to be intimate. If they're really, really pushing you and you're trying to set boundaries and they're making it really difficult for you to set those boundaries, it's a really good clue that it's probably not going to stop. It's probably not going to go away. And many of us, I think, have made the mistake of dating someone thinking, oh, well, if they change, then they'll be a compatible partner. But usually people don't change unless they want to. So if it's working for them and they're controlling you and they're able to push past your boundaries and get what they want, and you have to sacrifice your needs in order to accommodate them, that's probably not going to change. And it's unlikely that that's going to be a fulfilling relationship for you. So again, how they respect you, how they treat you, do they honor your boundaries? Do they let you have your own opinions and perspectives, or do they kind of either blatantly bully you into agreeing with them or manipulate you into agreeing with them? So what are their tactics of getting what they want? And I've seen this many times in couples where maybe it's not flat out obvious that they're being manipulative or even abusive. It's kind of subtle. So another thing to watch for is subtle criticism. And sometimes this comes across as like just being sarcastic, or they're just being funny. But if all the funny jokes are at your expense, probably a good clue that they're not going to be able to rein that in over time. That if they're already overly critical and you're newly dating, it can be a really good indication that it's not going to work. That's kind of a red flag, that they are trying to manipulate you in some way. So, for example, it can be as basic as, like, oh, you're not really that great of a dresser, or, you didn't remember, that person's name, but I remembered that person's name, or, oh, you just don't do things as well as I do, or, oh, let me get that for you because I do that better than you do. Those little subtle comments, if they're excessive, particularly if they're happening regularly. I mean, everyone says things stupidly sometimes, myself included. So it's different if it's an every once in a while foot and mouth moment, like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that to come out that way, as opposed to, oh, I'm just being funny, I'm just teasing you, I'm just being silly, insulting you, basically, or impugning you in some way, or making you feel like you're less than, or making you feel like you're not quite as smart as they are, or not quite as good as they are, or not quite as crafty, or whatever, that they're necessity of saying something that puts you down or makes you feel like you're less than is more important than valuing your self-esteem and your worth and honoring your many good qualities. Now, sometimes this is combined with the opposite of which it's been coined, the term is love bombing, where they're continually dishing out all kinds of accolades. But those accolades or those compliments are also infiltrated frequently with barbs, with little zingers or little insults like, oh, like, oh, at least I do this well. Those kind of things that are more subtle. They're not as blatant. And usually these kind of people are pretty good at communicating. So they're good at making you feel like it was just I'm just kidding or I'm just joking. And they're not blatantly saying like you're a jerk or anything like that. So it's easy to dismiss. It's easy to ignore. But it's important to be aware of that those little teeny insults that happen continuously over time really do take a toll on your self-esteem and can really cloud your judgment and actually alter the way your brain is functioning over time. So those little subtle tactics can be so degrading to your self-worth and your self-esteem that it becomes life-altering in many ways. This is why a lot of people stay stuck in those toxic relationships, because over time it's like you learn to justify and make excuses for the person so many times, and you do feel badly about yourself because they have offered a lot of criticisms and critiques over time, so you really do start to doubt your own worth and your own sanity, and it can really be damaging, particularly over time. So do watch out for those subtle insults frequently, especially if that's not kind of the dynamic that you're having. I mean, sometimes couples can be sarcastic together and they have kind of a banter that they both agree on, and that can be more playful if you're both participating. But again, you got to be really cautious of those negative comments and the critiques over time, because they really do make a dent on our self-esteem and our self-worth. So that is really red flag number 2. So that can also be associated with that first one. Like if they don't have respect for you and your boundaries and your space, this is probably a part of that, is that they're maybe adding those critiques and criticisms to devalue you and make you feel more susceptible to being manipulated. And some of the manipulation tactics are by kind of insulting you, like, well, you don't want to drive because you're not that great of a driver, or you don't drive as well as I do. So, they're kind of in control. They're doing things and setting the path for them to be directing whatever is happening in your lives. So it's important to really recognize when that's happening and to really listen and listen to your own interpretation. Is okay, this person just insulted me. What do I think about that? Does that feel wonderful? Does it feel crappy? Am I justifying it? Am I excusing it? Does it feel familiar to maybe a past unpleasant relationship? And how do I want to move forward with this? Is this enough of continual criticism that it doesn't feel like it's going to be something that's changing, which is likely the case. So again, it's kind of difficult to not be blinded by some of these tactics, because they're often inundated with or followed up by oh, you're so great, you're the greatest person in the world, I'm so happy that you're my partner, or I'm dating you and you're so wonderful. So they kind of confuse you with adding lots of compliments and accolades and telling you how wonderful you are, and while continuing to kind of slug you emotionally with those negative comments and critiques. It's like okay, where am I? What's happening here? It's really confusing for most people, because most people don't intend to harm other people, and they're not trying to manipulate someone. So it's difficult to wrap your head around the fact that some people do, that some people really are malicious, and they're trying to get what they want from you rather than having the desire or motivation to be a compatible partner. So really some serious red flags to watch out for. The other is manipulation, and again, these can include all of the respect issues, the boundary issues, and the criticisms. But sometimes this will look like, oh, well, you can do whatever you want to do, but, it'll really hurt my feelings if you make that choice. Or I'll be really devastated if you make that choice. Or it'd be really hard for me if you make that choice, or if you do that thing, or if you do something that you want for you and it doesn't benefit me, kind of a manipulation tactic. So sometimes it can be pretty subtle and it feels like, oh, well, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to hurt their feelings, so I'll have to alter what I'm doing and alter my choices and my behaviors in order to accommodate them. And again, I mean, we all have this sometimes, but if this is a frequent occurrence, or if it's about something that's really important to you and they make it about how important it is to not do it for them, those are kind of manipulation tactics that can feel pretty subtle. And again, we get blinded by over time. So it's like, oh, well, I guess, they get hurt about this and they get hurt about that, or they're upset about this or upset about that. So I really need to kind of change the way I'm living, functioning, or walk on eggshells to accommodate whatever it is that they need or want. And over time, again, this can become really toxic and damaging. Again, if this happens every once in a while and it's very random, and maybe at some point it's like, hey, I've got, a trigger around there. Can we not talk about that? Or can we do something different around this particular area? That's one thing. But again, when it's repeated and it's constantly around your basically self-esteem, your values, your wants, your needs, and your boundaries, and they're continually kind of manipulating the situation in order to get you to do what they want. Red flags, really red flags, right? So just to be aware of that, not everybody is a match, and that's okay. And I think a lot of times people go into a relationship and they think, well, I'm dating, so yay. And sometimes we don't take the time to go, who am I dating and why am I dating them? And did I choose them or did they choose me? And am I enjoying this? Is this working for me? Or am I just dating them because they're around and they're breathing? And I can tell you there's much better catches than that. You need some more criteria. So again, making sure, as I've said in other videos, that your expectations are clear for yourself and what you're looking for, but also that you're really able to watch out for some of those red flags that can be a real damaging to your self-esteem factor throughout the years and months of a relationship like that. So if you're seeing a lot of these signs, manipulation, disrespect, not honoring your boundaries, and really not honoring or valuing your needs, and criticism, might be time to reevaluate. Why am I dating this person? What am I getting out of this relationship? What do I need from a relationship? Is this person meeting my expectations, or is this really just someone who I've kind of fallen into a relationship with and I feel a little bit stuck because this is all I'm comfortable with right now because it's familiar, right? So we don't want to be stuck in a comfortably uncomfortable relationship. Familiarity doesn't necessarily mean a successful relationship. So again, take the time to really evaluate what those flags are, and if you're really in it for the right reasons, or if you're just kind of sticking around because it's familiar. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching.